Far away, in the serene village of Umuakama, where rolling green hills kissed the sky and palm trees whispered secrets to the wind, the Ekene family stood as a name that echoed far beyond the horizon. Their wealth, amassed through years of trade and investments, was the stuff of legends. At the heart of this fortune was Chief Obinna Ekene, a man of vision and determination, whose shrewd decisions turned humble beginnings into an empire of riches. But this story is not about Chief Obinna, it is about his son, Chijioke, and the path he had to tread to understand the weight of true greatness. Chijioke was born into a life most could only dream of. His crib was carved from the finest mahogany, his toys imported from distant lands, and his education entrusted to the best schools in the country. By the age of 10, he had visited more countries than most villagers had even heard of. Yet, despite all the privileges, there was a restlessness about him, an air of entitlement that bordered on arrogance. The villagers whispered among themselves about how Chijioke, unlike his father, lacked the drive and discipline to build upon the family's legacy. Money does not buy wisdom, Mama Nnenna often said, shaking her head as she observed Chijioke's lackadaisical attitude. While his peers in Umuakama hustled under the scorching sun, fetching firewood or hawking goods in the market, Chijioke lounged in his father's sprawling mansion. He would spend hours on end, watching television or playing video games, oblivious to the world beyond the high walls of their estate. One day, his father called him into the grand study, a room lined with bookshelves, adorned with accolades, and imbued with the smell of polished wood. Chijioke. Chief Obinna began, his voice firm yet tinged with concern, "Do you know what it means to be truly great?" "Of course, Papa," Chijioke replied confidently. "It means having wealth, power, and influence, like you." Obinna sighed deeply. "Greatness is not measured by what you inherit but by what you create. I built this empire from nothing, with sweat and sleepless nights. If you don't learn the value of hard work, this wealth will slip through your fingers like sand." Chijioke rolled his eyes. He had heard this lecture before and dismissed it as his father's obsession with his own past struggles. But Obinna, sensing his son's indifference, decided it was time for a drastic lesson. The following morning, Chijioke was rudely awakened by the sound of banging on his bedroom door. It was Okoro, the family driver, holding a small duffel bag. "Young master," Okoro said with a mischievous smile, "your father has instructed me to take you somewhere." Chijioke groaned but obeyed, grudgingly throwing on some clothes. He assumed it was one of his father's business trips or another lecture on responsibility. Little did he know, his life was about to take a turn he would never forget. Okoro drove him to the edge of the village, where the grandeur of their estate gave way to humble mud houses and bustling markets. They stopped in front of an old, weathered house belonging to Mama Nnenna, the village matriarch. "This will be your home for the next 6 months, Okoro announced, handing Chijioke the duffel bag. "Your father says you must learn how to live without privilege." Chijioke stared at him in disbelief. "You can't be serious." But one look at Okoro's face told him this was no joke. Resigned, he stepped out of the car as the driver sped away, leaving a cloud of dust in his wake. Life in Mama Nnenna's household was a rude awakening. There were no servants to prepare meals or clean up after him. He was expected to fetch water from the stream, tend to the goats, and help in the small farm behind the house. The first few days were pure agony. His soft hands blistered from the hoe, His back ached from carrying firewood, and he longed for the comfort of his air-conditioned room. But amidst the struggle, something began to shift. Chijioke started observing the villagers, their resilience, their camaraderie, and their resourcefulness. He befriended Ifani, a boy his age who made and sold akara, bean cakes, to support his family. Ifani's optimism and work ethic humbled Chijioke, who realized he had taken his own comfort for granted. One day, as they sat under the shade of a mango tree, Chijioke asked, "Ifani, aren't you angry that life is so hard?" Ifani chuckled. "Life is what you make of it, my friend. I may not have your father's wealth, but I have dreams, and I am working towards them. That's what matters." As weeks turned into months, Chijioke's perspective transformed. He began to take pride in his tasks, no matter how menial they seemed. He learned to plant maize, weave baskets, and even make akara alongside Ifani. He found joy in the simplicity of village life and discovered strengths he never knew he had. By the time his 6 months were up, Chijioke was unrecognizable, not just physically, with his tanned skin and calloused hands, but in his spirit. He returned to his father's estate with a newfound humility and a burning desire to prove himself. Chief Obinna watched with quiet satisfaction as his son began to take an active interest in the family business. Chijioke started from the ground up, learning every aspect of the trade, from negotiating deals in the market to managing workers in the factory. He applied the lessons he had learned in the village: perseverance, innovation, and a deep respect for hard work. Over the years, Chijioke built upon his father's legacy, not just preserving the family wealth but expanding it in ways no one had thought possible. He established scholarships for underprivileged children in Umuakama, invested in local businesses, and worked tirelessly to uplift the community that had taught him the true meaning of greatness. Years later, as he stood before a crowd at a village festival, Chijioke shared his story. "I used to think greatness was my birthright, handed to me on a silver platter," he said, his voice steady with conviction. "But I learned that greatness is earned through effort, resilience, and a commitment to making the world a better place." The villagers erupted in applause, and Chief Obinna, sitting in the front row, smiled proudly. His son had finally understood the weight of gold, not the kind that glitters, but the kind that is forged in the fire of hard work and purpose.